Welcome to Bogside Chats, where we're talking everything DeFiKingdoms and keeping it casual. My name is Matty Pesk. Today I am joined by Franz and Guy Kid. Boys, how we doing?
Doing great. Ready to talk some gameplay.
PvP is on the horizon. Can't wait.
Oh, on the horizon might be strong, but I like the energy though.
Hey, positive thoughts there.
Oh yeah.
So a little bit later, we're going to be talking about the Baby Cup Fight Klub tournament that we've been hyping. It's going to be this weekend. We're going to get into some meta on that stuff. But before we get to that, the team made an announcement last week. We are recording on October 4th. I believe it was the 29th, so last Thursday, the team dropped a little bit of alpha about PvP, an update from Wisdom Gaming, where they dropped some snippets on what the game is going to look like and how the PvP and how the characters are going to work. It was really exciting. I mean, you guys saw this, right? Obviously.
Oh yeah. It was hard not to see it. Everybody in the community was pretty excited. Discord was blowing up. Twitter was having some fun too. It was a good time.
Yeah. Well, let's go. I'm gonna run down a couple of the key things that they said, and then we're gonna get into Workhorse, the guy that works at Wisdom Gaming. He got into the Discord thread PvP discussion, and he was dropping info like crazy. People were asking him just rapid fire random questions, and he was giving info. But before we get to all that good stuff, they went through some basics of what the PvP will be. Basically, every hero is going to have 30 abilities, or let me rephrase that because I don't know for sure if that's how many every hero has, but there's 30 abilities available per class. Your subclass does matter, as you'll have a class tree and a subclass tree. The four we've been calling them advanced abilities. This is a big change for us. We got to mentally change here. They're calling them genes now, or genetic traits. Those are going to come into play. That they're going to be separate from the abilities of the skill trees, though, and we'll get into that a little bit later. Right now, they have 25 keyword mechanics, so stuff like stun. What else did they say? Daze, banish. I'm sure we'll get more info on that, but that's fun and kind of expected. We knew there'd be status stuff like that. Also, probably one of the biggest news that they dropped was that they are going to be ditching the Final Fantasy Gambit system, which was the kind of the presets that we've been talking about, and they're going to be going to a turn-based, so much more classic kind of RPG fighting. And then, of course, they dropped a little video that they said was a rushed sort of job. It's not really actual footage, but it did show give some idea of what these abilities look like. So before we get real detailed, what do you guys think of this initial just info here? What are our thoughts?
Yeah, I think it's great. Think the biggest thing is definitely the change from the Final Fantasy style to the turn-based. I love that, a more active experience that I think a lot of people were expecting from the beginning, and a little surprised when they went away from it. So glad we're back in there.
And I think there's going to be so many different types of skill options and hero combinations. I think it's going to be fun being able to tinker and craft unique team combinations. I'm excited for that.
Yeah, and so I filled in some gaps here, but it appears that, especially with this whole Wisdom Gaming, this move to higher Wisdom Gaming, it seems like they're moving kind of off of the everything being on the blockchain, and because it seems like turn-based, it's not going to be a transaction every single turn. It'll be some sort of hybrid where the results of the battle are what gets published to the blockchain. Or I don't know for sure, but I think that's an interesting shift, and hopefully. I think it's going to lead to some good stuff. I don't know.
Yeah, trying to fight a turn-based battle and having to wait for your, transactions to clear.
Yeah.
That doesn't sound like a fun experience. So I think that's great. Much more fluid and, like a traditional game. The important stuff is still on the blockchain. We're good.
Yeah, for sure. I think So they do this initial announcement, and then everybody goes crazy, and they're tweeting about it and talking about it. And then Workhorse, who's a Wisdom Gaming employee and who's been a member of the community, he gets on the Discord and he starts answering questions in one of the threads, PvP discussion. And we've pulled up some of his quotes because we want to discuss what he talks about, because he went into depth on a couple things. I think right off the bat is the skill trees and that you can respec. Do you have that quote, Guy? We can pull it up for people.
Yeah, Guy's gonna have a fun episode trying to find which quote we're talking about as we go through them. So let's really, hit them from all different angles here.
Yeah, I mean, it's the interesting thing that all heroes will have the same number of abilities, but abilities are based on class, and each class is unique. So it's like not crazy stuff there to start, but it is interesting that we're gonna have a ton of skill tree options.
Well, I think it's great that it kind of vindicates the user base who I think a lot of us have been saying for a long time that subclass is going to be very important. It is now. I mean, that's where you're going to get your kind of weird meta builds where you have, super magical ninja or something, right? Because it's got a wizard subclass.
Yep.
Yeah.
And he did say too that if you have aligned class and subclasses, there's going to be a special skill tree for having a warrior primary with a warrior subclass, or wizard primary with a wizard subclass too. So that's going to be really interesting as well.
So are you guys more excited for, that magical ninja scenario where you have those differing subclasses, or for the aligned pure ones?
Me personally, the aligned pure ones. I mean, I feel like whenever it gets to PvP, of like the more concentrated your hero can be of being the best tank or the best damage dealer or the best healer, usually leads to an optimal situation. I do think there's going to be some crazy weird combos that people can get really creative with, but I think at least to start, the matching primary class and subclass will be key.
I think that obviously I want to see what that like they said, there you'll get access to a unique ability when you have those matching, class and subclass. But also I'm really excited to do the weird combos of, kind of like a tanky main class and maybe a magic class, and like come up with some like weird combos. I really like that idea. Because I think for me, like, I know my heroes, I don't have a lot of Dread Knights. I don't have any Dread Knights. I have, one Sage. So like I know I'm not going to get it with like pure strength. So I feel like I'm going to have to come up with some creative builds to like be competitive, and that's what I'm kind of excited about.
Well, let's not sell that Sage short. That's a too advanced gene Sage
there. We go.
So,
there you go. Yeah.
No, but I both sides obviously sound exciting. I think it's good to know for the aligned class subclass that it is going to unlock something, because with that you're getting the stats like I was saying. An archer has the chance for the highest dex outcome in the game. So you're getting those stats and cool new abilities.
Yes, it was very cool, and so a lot of people were asking Workhorse about this new change, and Franz reflected it very nicely. That what we've been calling advanced abilities are genes or genetic traits now, and Workhorse went on sort of talking about how the skill tree and the genes are going to be completely separate things that aren't really connected whatsoever, and that the genes are going to be sort of traits that any person is predisposed to. They're really strong, they have great eyesight, natural born leaders, etc. He stayed kind of vague here and didn't give like full details on it, obviously. But I thought this was really interesting and sort of different from what we thought, I think, or at least some of our theories. But still pretty exciting news.
Yeah, definitely. And I think you can pretty much throw away the idea of these genes. This gene isn't going to be like, oh, my wizard has a taunt gene. You can throw that idea out the window. But I think all genes will help all heroes. but there's some genes that will help certain types of heroes more than others.
Yeah. And this kind of goes away from what the team had said previously, right? Didn't Hubert say, I think to you, Maddie, in Discord, that each class would have a different set of advanced and elite abilities? So unless we were misunderstanding that quote, this is a little bit of a change, and it seems like a change that makes sense.
Right. I think. Well, to be honest, we sort of got a couple different messages from them of whether these what we formerly thought were advanced abilities were going to be tied to that skill tree or not tied to the skill tree. So I think at one point I did think they were together, but now this makes it very clear that these genes are separate from your class stuff completely.
Yeah. But to Guy's point, that doesn't mean they're going to align well. Like you could have super strength on a Sage,
Do you think the active 1 and active 2 genes will be the same genes, just you have the chance of getting the same gene twice or something like that? Or do you think the active 1 is a unique list of genes and the active 2 is a unique list of genes?
So you're saying if I have advanced 4 in slot active 1 and advanced 4 in slot active 2.
Yep.
This was talked about in a later thread, and
okay.
We don't have this quote up because it was a later thread, but anyone that's like listed like advanced 1 or advanced 1, they are the same for like under active and under passive.
If you hit on those, that could be great. If I have a Dark
then
Knight with 2 advanced ones,
doubled. Yes.
Right, and it's super strength, that's
Exactly.
fantastic.
All right. Better question. What's the transcendent gene?
Yeah.
Right. Because there's only one right now.
Yeah.
Right now.
Right.
Yeah, that's similar to Kai Blast in Fight Klub. It's just deal a shitload of damage and you're good.
Well, I imagine it's just like plus 10% all stats or something insane like that,
It should be something. I mean, it has to be fitting of the transcendent level.
Yeah, so there's like this natural born leader tease, like maybe you are just a natural born fighter and all stats are boosted.
Or maybe
yeah.
Yeah, go ahead, Matt.
I was going to say natural born leader, it sounds to me like everybody on your team gets plus 10 attack, something insane.
We're going the same place with that.
The transcendent, gene means that you're like one of a kind, so you inspire,
Well, I could see that being a passive, for an active.
Sure. Yeah, transcendent.
That's where it gets tough, right? Because if these are genes, if these are just like traits that a hero has, how could they be active? Because active kind of implies that skill, that ability, that's something that you're doing.
And maybe they've just pivoted and active's not the right word anymore.
Okay. I'd be okay.
I mean, that might just be what they call it, but it you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So going back to this, everyone tried to pull more from him on this thread. One big thing everybody was asking was, if I have a Dread Knight with all basic genes versus a monk with a transcendent gene, is that going to be a fair fight? And I thought it was excellent reply. I don't know if we have this one listed, but he just basically said,
"It's not."
Well, that'll depend on the player. It's completely up to how you fight and what strategy you use in the battle. So I was kind of excited. That's what they're thinking about, at least.
And that's such a small thing. That's something that I feel like we just take for granted, that the game should be competitive.
Yeah.
But just knowing they have a focus on that, it's, I think, very important.
Yeah. So yeah, it was interesting, and again, I think we're obviously we start theorizing immediately as soon as we get this info. But I do think one thing he said was that every genetic trait or every gene will be beneficial, is something that he said. I mean, I think that's the tough part of your wizard getting plus 2 strength isn't, it doesn't hurt him, but it's not really the ideal. So it'll be interesting. I think we're going to keep watching this, obviously.
But the thing is, when you're going to turn based, right? So in the what was the name of the other system? Gambit system. In a gambit system, having say a sage that has a little bit boosted strength, I feel like that doesn't help you because when you're setting things, you're never kind of going to that move. But there are definitely times in a turn-based game where attacking with your sage could be the move, right?
Right. Sure.
So it could come up.
Yeah, definitely. Especially if, before I was gonna jump into another thing, but
Keep it rolling.
yeah, well, I was gonna say, especially if they have the different front, mid, and back, and like the front guy, drops out, and you have to slide up or something like that. You could end up having one of your backline, quote unquote, backline guys, like a sage, have to save the day on the front line.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So yeah, having a strong sage in that situation would be good.
And Guy has the picture up now showing, front line, midline, back line. I mean, we all know that very well because of Fight Klub, and it's the way things are kind of situated in there. But the thing that I like the most about this is the equipment more than I feel like everyone kind of saw this and said like, all right, warriors will be able to attack front, dragoons because of the spear, mid,
Mm-hmm.
and archers. But isn't that more about the equipment than the hero?
100%.
Totally. And I'm sure, I'm not sure, but I would hope that there would be limits. Certain classes can use certain weapons. But yeah, I think you should be able to give a spear to a warrior. That makes sense.
I mean, do you think it should be based on classes or just stats in general? Like you need this much dex to use this bow and
yeah.
arrow.
I mean, that
But,
works too.
like if you can get I don't know what's a low dex here. If you can get a wizard that has that high of dex, that's a unique build,
Yeah,
Yeah,
I think
so
it would be kind of two-tier where it's like there's going to be a stat barrier of you need certain stats to be able to be efficient with a weapon or something along those lines. But I do think there's going to be heroes will have some limitation. Like you can't have a warrior that uses a wand or a staff or something
right.
like that.
Well, yeah. They probably wouldn't have the stats to get there, but I see what you mean. If they did, maybe it's tied to the skill tree as well. Like must have,
Sure.
you know, I can't think of
And
something, but
so it's
this
pretty
magical skill unlocked.
Yep.
and it's pretty common for skill trees to have like weapon efficiency as
Mhm.
well.
Mhm.
You build out your warrior to be focused with sword and shield combination or something
Mhm.
like that.
Well, I mean, I can't wait to see the skill tree because there have been some games where I've looked at that screen and it makes perfect sense. It's a nice clean tree. I can follow it. I game plan it. There are others that are just daunting as hell when you look at them. So I'm
Oh yeah.
interested to see the level of complexity here.
Yeah, I think if you listen back to the episode we did with Neindorf and Raph when we were talking about other video games, I feel like the Mass Effect skill trees are pretty straightforward for the most part. The Skyrim ones can be a little confusing, but once you get the hang of them, I feel like those are pretty self-explanatory. But I've seen some like Final Fantasy ones where I'm like, what am I looking at right now? This makes no sense.
Yeah, after months of playing the game, you'll figure it out. But
Yeah, exactly.
that
Yeah.
first week, you're not going to know what you're doing. And
Yeah.
that, I mean, that comes back to the respecking, which we kind of grazed over.
Yeah.
I wanted to ask you guys, what do you think the cost will be, or how do you think that mechanic of respecking will work? Will it be a location you have to get to that's hard to get to? Will there be some kind of barrier?
I
There'll be something. But I think maybe like a specific item, like a specific crystal or stone
Mhm.
that is like a rare drop rate, something like that would be very cool.
like the item idea. I also think early combat, they'll probably do some kind of free rolls, almost like a Gen Zero reroll type thing, just to help people kind of as they figure out balance, as they figure out skills that work, doing some kind of reset, at least out of the gates.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, and as metas change in the early stages, down the road when meta changes, it's fine. But as they're kind of balancing these skills, maybe they even airdrop kind of class specific items for respecking, things like that.
Yep.
Well, I would love the idea if they did seasons, and like at the end of each season, you got the respec stone, right? You get one. so you don't have to respec, and you can kind of stockpile them.
Mm-hmm. Or you
I
could
think that
sell
would
them.
be very cool. Yeah, and sell. Yeah,
Or maybe
Yeah.
you do a time-based item too that the respec
Sure.
can only be
Ooh.
used during a season.
Yeah,
That's interesting. I feel like it doesn't have that secondary market value then, but
Right.
is that a good thing?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Do you really want people
It's
stockpiling
right.
an item like that?
respec.
Right. I mean, do you want whales to be able to just buy them when they want them, or do you want it to be
Yeah.
maybe it's a part of the map that it's a grind to get to,
Or
and
yeah,
your
it could
hero
be.
that you want to respec has to make it there alive to respec.
That would be interesting. Or like a PVE achievement or accomplishment.
Yeah.
So like you have to be playing the game basically. To
Right.
get.
I was thinking of that like in the context of PvE,
Yeah, totally.
like that island in the south of
Right,
Serendale.
right. Yeah.
That'd be
That's where
cool.
you like find yourself, quote unquote,
Yeah.
as a hero. Um. All right. Oh, and also want to say a quick note. So that image that we were showing with the different range potential, this was tweeted by Second Best Dad, sort of as a response to a lot of these questions that were coming from the PVE thread or PvP thread. And again, they said that it's not anything official. It's sort of just like their current ideas that they're thinking about. And Workhorse said that too a lot of like nothing's official totally yet, but like these are kind of the hints of where they're heading.
Yeah, and shout out to Second Best Dad as well. We always
Oh yeah,
focus on Workhorse because he subscribes, so we're Team Workhorse. But Second Best Dad and Aiden as well, part of the Wisdom Gaming team that Workhorse has said is pivotal in the PvP stuff. I'm sure we'll be hearing a lot more from him as this progresses.
no, for sure. All right, let me check my notes. I want to make sure I didn't miss any of the ones that we want to talk about. Oh, this was a big one. I don't know if we quoted it, but they asked him about a timeline. When is this going to be out? When is it going to be ready? And he said basically they're going to work on it till it's done, which I kind of like that response. He didn't say like, oh, maybe this, maybe then. He didn't give any kind of false hope, but just said like, we're going to work on it, and then when it's done, it's done. So I appreciate that, but also it does kind of sound like we're not seeing this for a while.
Yeah, probably not. Something they mentioned. He was asked if this would be released in mobile or in browser first,
Right.
and he said the plan would be to launch them together. So, I don't know how that's one of those things where it's so far out that
Yeah.
like that's the plan, but it should be. But we'll see
Yeah.
as that gets closer. Um, I'm just looking through some of the screenshots. Another one that we didn't really touch upon, I think maybe a little basic, but good to know, is that mana is the energy source for all abilities. So it's important
Right.
for
Yeah,
all
that's a
heroes and
good one.
classes, but honestly, pretty much everything is important. So, um, yeah, just that all those abilities, you're still going to need that stuff on your heavy hitters.
Yeah. Which I think everybody sort of assumed that that wasn't exclusively for magic. It was also going to power your special moves and stuff like that.
Hmm.
But that sort of confirmed it. Right. So yeah, we covered a lot of this stuff, but I highly recommend